Okay, I'm having a problem with this Asus X570-E gaming motherboard. It seems to run fine on first boot. I've got a brand new Ryzen 5 5500 CPU in there, some G-Skill 3600 RAM, and an Inno3D 3070 graphics card and a 1000-watt Corsair power supply. I've also got a Western Digital NVMe drive in the M.2 slot. The only other peripherals connected is keyboard and mouse and a network adapter. I've got both CPU power supply cables plugged in, ATX power supply plugged in. They're all seated home correctly, as well as the PCI Express cables here. And I've got a front panel connected in from another piece as PC case. And here's the switching for it. We've got power switch in red, reset switch in black. Now I've got it running at the moment. I've just pulled the battery out of the motherboard for the CMOS and reset the CMOS as well, just to make sure. And I've booted it into the BIOS here and made a couple of changes to do the XMP, or the AMD equivalent for XMP. And it's running at 3600. That's the correct default for this RAM kit. And I've tweaked a couple of other settings as well. I'll hit the save on here and it'll come up with a list of what I've actually changed. Okay, so I've done the automatic DOCP settings here, which changed all of these settings right down to here. I've also changed this sleep setting, which I've read may fix my issue, as well as this last power setting here. But I'll have to see if those actually do fix my problem. So I'm going to hit OK and reboot that. The issue that I'm having is that sometimes the motherboard or the computer itself will just hard turn off. It doesn't give any warning, it just cuts the power. And then no matter, you push the power button and it won't power back on again. The only way I can get it power back on is to turn off the power supply and unplug the power cable and wait until the RGB lights on the motherboard turn off, so it's drained all of the capacitors in the power supply, and then wait a few minutes and replug it in, and then usually it should boot up. Also, when doing a normal shutdown of the system, it will, in the morning when I come back to turn it back on again, it will do the same thing. It just has no power on at all, and it takes unplugging it from the actual wall to make the system reboot. At the moment, my screen is doing some strange things. That's a Sony issue with the panel. That's not an issue with the graphics card or the computer. Usually if I unplug the HDMI cable and plug it back in again, it should correct itself and stay on. Sony's hasn't implemented their HDMI very well on these particular televisions to be compatible with PCs. It works fine with PlayStations and other things, but it doesn't like PCs, so hopefully they release an update for that one. I can try and do a shutdown on this system now to see if it will do the power state issue where it won't reboot. But normally it takes overnight for that to actually happen. So I'll just see, yep, the power LEDs have gone out on here. The LEDs on the graphics card have turned off and the RAM. but the RGB on the motherboard usually stays on, but because I've changed that power state in the BIOS, they're actually not on at the moment. Normally when I've had the problem where the system will not allow me to turn it back on again, the RGB lights on the motherboard are still on. So the motherboard's still getting power, but I push the power button and it won't boot. So let's see if I can get it to boot. It'll probably go. Yeah, it has. It's turned on now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this computer for the next few hours tonight and then shut it down, and then in the morning I'm going to turn it back on again, or try to turn it back on again, and capture that in the next video. Thank you.